A lot of things went wrong with the Nike GT Hustle 3, and my biggest question after testing them is who is going to wear this shoe? Welcome back to my channel, my name is Lucas and this is my Nike GT Hustle 3 performance review. Essentially it's a running shoe adapted to play basketball, but the weird thing about it is the cushioning setup is insanely comfortable and looks like or feels like it's made for big guys, but the rest of the shoe kind of feels like it's made for quick shifty guards, and those two things just don't go well together. But more of that later. We're going to start it off with traction performance. You can see I wore these on an outdoor court as well. They're a little bit dirty still, and the traction pattern and the traction performance is actually something that performed really well, and I enjoyed playing them indoors and outdoors. The grip was really good. We have not a fully radial traction pattern, but a round traction pattern on the entire outsole. What makes this shoe really good is that they have a gum outsole. Gum outsoles, if you didn't know, tend to perform really well and usually better than just normal solid or translucent rubber outsoles. So the gum setup was really enjoyable indoors and outdoors, as I said, but the durability for sure isn't the best, so I don't recommend them out for outdoor courts. Cushioning setup itself would be perfect for outdoors, especially for concrete courts, but sadly the traction pattern just doesn't hold up. Apart from that, there's also a big question mark here. We have this little cutout for the zoom unit to expand, and as you can see, if you move and if you bend the shoe, it stretches a lot. Let's hope it doesn't rip way too quickly. That's definitely going to be a wear and tear area the more you wear this shoe and the more you play with them. Moving on to the cushioning setup, this is where it gets interesting. It's definitely the strongest point of the Nike GT Hustle 3. And what's also so interesting about this shoe is that for the third time, it's a completely different shoe. So usually when you have a line, like let's say the Sabrina line, we have the Sabrina 1, the Sabrina 2, they're pretty similar, almost the same shoe, just some little tweaks and changes, that's what you're used to. And here we had the Nike GT Run, which was the first shoe, which was completely different to the Nike GT Hustle 2, which is again completely different to the Nike GT Hustle 3. Maybe the only similarity I can see is that this shoe feels like a running shoe, just like the Nike GT Run, the initial shoe of the line, had in the name. Getting back to the cushioning setup, it's a really nice setup. We have a Zoom X insole. It's directly underneath your foot. It looks like styrofoam, feels like styrofoam too, and it's very sticky. Of course there's glue on the forefoot, but also on top. If you go on, you can see those little knobs here, similar to the drop-in midsoles we had on Kobe's or also on Way of Wade models. If you put your foot into the shoe, it's actually a lot of tension on the sock already just by sliding your foot into the shoe. And if you're doing movements inside the shoe, hard lateral cuts, stops, whatever, there really isn't much movement and your foot is glued to the Zoom X insole. And I love Zoom X, especially liked it on the Nike GT Cut 3. Really comfortable, really bouncy as well. To be honest, I couldn't feel it that much on this shoe, at least not the bounce factor, but I believe that's just because there's so much more cushioning in there. We have a forefoot Zoom Strobel unit right here in the forefoot. Then in the back of the shoe we have a soft foam, at least that's what it says on Nike's website. Very interesting that for a €200 or dollar shoe you don't get the full tech specs. I believe it's React foam, also some other reviewers have said that. Feels similar to what was used on a PG line. So I think it's React foam, but of course I can't be sure. Maybe Foot Dr. Zach has cut them open, he can confirm it. I haven't seen his video on that. And then in the forefoot, of course, we have this really huge Air Zoom unit here, right underneath the Air Strobel. So essentially in the forefoot you have 4 cushioning setups, which is insane. You have the Zoom X insole, you have the Air Strobel, you have a little bit of the React midsole that you're using in the foam, and then you have the Air Zoom unit underneath. So it's an insanely comfortable setup. It's just from a cushioning standpoint, I would really like the shoe. I just didn't enjoy it much while playing basketball, if that makes sense. Because for me, I'm not a big guy. I'm around 6'2", so 190 centimeters. And I play shooting guard. I'm a shooter. I'm used to shoes that are lower to the ground, good court feel, responsiveness, and just enough impact protection. Something like, as I said, the Sabrina line, maybe the Book ones. Really enjoyed the Kobe 6 as well. I do like shoes with more cushioning, like the KDs. You can see I have a lot of them, or the LeBrons, but it's not as much cushioning as there is in here. I said 4 cushioning setups, 3 in the heel. It's really plush and just too much for me or for my liking. I'm probably not going to wear them as often now that I'm done testing them, which is kind of a shame. I really like the design of the shoe as well, but just the sheer amount of cushioning is too much. For me, it was also very interesting. I actually got some pain in my shins, or not the shins, the muscle that goes over my shins, just because the first time I wore them, it was so much work for the muscles in my legs to actually compress this air zoom unit here in the forefoot and to compress the whole cushioning setup that's here in the forefoot of this shoe. And my feet were just not used to it. So the first time I went and played with them, it was actually my birthday last week, I really got some pain after like 45 minutes, and I could feel my muscles tightening up and getting sore actually quicker than with a shoe that hasn't got as much cushioning. I got used to it over time, so it wasn't there all the time, but that's just something to keep in mind. If you're not used to playing with a shoe that has this much cushioning, then maybe stay away from them. If you're used to a shoe like the Nike GT Jump 2, which they do remind me of a little bit, then I think you should be good to go. That's all for the cushioning setup. Moving on to the support features of the shoe, which is probably the biggest question you have. Are they supportive enough? And that's also the biggest question mark I have with the shoe. Just from a stability standpoint and what's in the shoe, they are actually decently supportive. It's not 10 out of 10, but it's also not a 1 out of 10. I'd say they're right about a good, decent 2/3 of the way there, so like 6.5 out of 10 maybe. And they have some features. We've got a top-loaded shank plate in the middle. We've got a nice heel counter. We've got a great upper, fly-knit upper. We're going to talk about that in the materials as well. And we've got some like kind of flywire cables here to keep you locked in. And as I said, the insole actually keeps your foot on the insole really, really nicely. The issue is that with this insanely high off the ground cushioning setup and this insanely plush cushioning setup, the materials used on the shoe just don't work. The cushioning setup, as I said in the intro, is made for big guards, for big guys, obviously, and the material is made for guards. So that creates a big issue in the stability standpoint. I didn't feel like I was very unstable. I could feel myself moving a little bit like this on very hard lateral cuts, but not to the point where I had the feeling I would roll my ankle constantly. The thing for me is, if a really, really big guy wears this shoe, it's going to be great, speaking just about the cushioning setup, but how is it going to be containment-wise? Is this really, really thin material going to be able to support someone of the size as Rudy Gobert or Victor Wembanyama, who've been wearing this shoe? Usually NBA players get tweaked versions of the shoes anyways, so it's not going to be the easiest to compare with those players, but maybe just if someone of you guys in comments, if someone of you has tried them and you're a bigger player or a heavier player, I would be really, really interested to hear how the fly-knit material is supporting your feet and if your foot is moving out over the footbed. Apart from that, I said the support features are actually there. So I had a lot of comments saying it's the GT ankle breakers, the GT free ankle rollers or something like that. I think the hate is a little bit undeserved because Nike did think a little bit when they made this shoe, so to say, but they just didn't think it all the way through, combining an insanely high off the ground cushioning setup with materials that would be perfect for quick and shifty guards. So just from a support standpoint, it's definitely not the best, and the combination of cushioning and materials is not the best they could have used. But now speaking of the materials, they are actually really, really nice. I said very soft, fly-knit upper, very breathable, conforms to your feet well, and also very, very lightweight. I was surprised at how light the shoe is. I'll blend in the weight on screen, and they're size 14 by the way, so it's going to be a little bit heavier than what you see from other reviewers. And when I first had them in hand, I was really, really surprised at how light they were in my hand. I really like the materials, the padding is nice, it's comfortable, light on foot, and what's also nice about the Flyknit is that the fit will get better for wide feet. I have extremely wide feet, especially my right foot is crazy wide in midfoot area, and it was very tight at first. You can see it's not the widest toe box, but because the materials are so soft, they will stretch, and as you can see, if my feet are in there, it really stretches out and will confirm to your feet over time. So essentially the fit, I would recommend going true to size. They are 200 euros or dollars, as I said, so really, really expensive. And the big question is, who is really going to wear them? On a side note, they came in a really, really cool packaging. On the one hand, really cool. On the other hand, really useless. Kind of like the shoe itself. I wouldn't say it's useless. It's definitely going to work for some players. Why the packaging is cool and useless at the same time is because they came in this airtight bag right here. You could open this little knob here to let out the air, and there's actually a zip down there which I didn't see. I cut them open, that's my bad. It's actually pretty cool. It came in this huge box, but I love the design and the attention to detail. But of course, it's single-use plastic. It's a lot of waste, Nice thing is that it also came with a note from Nike. I can't find it right now, I'll blend it in on the screen. I got these from Kicks. You can also find an affiliate link to them down in the description box. That's all I have to say on the Nike GT Hustle 3. Really interesting and weird shoe. Let me know if you've played in them, what are your thoughts on the shoe, and do you plan on getting them. With that being said, thanks for watching, see you next time, subscribe to my channel, leave a like, all the best.